I'm happy to say a few words having nothing to do with public office. But instead, the real reason that Steve asked me when he asked me was to talk about my experiences as in the military, in the Army. I spent 20 years on active duty in the U.S. Army, retired as a military intelligence officer. Although my words here tonight have not been approved by the Department of Defense, and I speak only as a private citizen. But in the course of my 20 years on active duty, I had the opportunity to serve in Germany when it was known as West Germany. And I had the opportunity to be at the Fulda Gap, where you could look across and see where the Russian Soviet army was backing up the East German Stasi, their secret police, who had turned everyone neighbor against neighbor and even family members against each other in order to maintain their oppressive regime. I had the opportunity to travel to Korea, go to the DMZ, Panmunjom, and look over into the nation, the part of Korea that was ruled by a cult-like dictator. I deployed 3 times in support of operations in Bosnia, where we came in to stop ethnic cleansing, where the different ethnic groups were violently expelling members of other ethnic groups from their part of the country. And I served one tour in Iraq in 2003, where our country freed Iraq from a dictator, although after one tour, I decided to leave active duty because it appeared that we had lost our way. I am disheartened by the fact that I see many of the same problems that we went to fix, that we went to stop, beginning to occur in our nation here at home. I didn't go around the world because I was seeking adventure. I went around the world because my country had asked me to. What I did to bring peace to Bosnia was not because I wore a uniform that said duck over one pocket. It was because over the other pocket it said United States Army. And I was there representing you to do good in these far-flung places where people were facing dictatorship, oppression, and violent stamping out their right to speak. And today I'm seeing those same things here in my home country. We gather here today, in particular, to mourn those we have lost. We mentioned Renee Good and Alex Pretti, but there are dozens more who have lost their lives in these ICE operations that we know about, and we have to presume there are dozens more that we do not know about. And so we gather here today to mourn those losses, but we also look to the lessons we can take from those losses. We can look to the lesson provided by the people of Minneapolis who are standing up for their community. They are not allowing a secret police to turn them neighbor against neighbor. They are standing up to fight that. That we are looking at journalists who are going there to carry the story, bring that story to the public, and in fact, regular citizen journalists who are capturing those events on their cell phone. Because the first dozens of people killed were not noticed as much as the most recent two who were captured on video. And they were captured on video because neighbors were standing there to document what was happening to their neighbors in their community. And as we stand here in this church, I am reminded by the commandment, love thy neighbor. And even further, by the explanation, when they said, well, who, Lord, is our neighbor? The story of the Good Samaritan. Our neighbor is everybody. Even the foreigner. Even the foreigner who is an idol worshiper. They too are our neighbor. And we are commanded to love them. And our nation has, in the past, embraced that concept. Give me your huddled masses yearning to be free. Because that is our tradition. That is our values that we have as a country and as a nation. And as we look out today and we see the photographs, the one that hit me was Alex Pretti on all fours while an ICE officer pointed a gun at the back of his head and took his life. That is the sort of thing that I spent 20 years going around the world to stop. And now we are called to stop it here at home. And when we look to the example from the folks in Minnesota and Minneapolis, I think first and foremost of the last words that Renee Good said. I don't hate you, man. We need to carry that message forward as well. This cannot be about hatred of anyone. This has to be about a love of our neighbor and a restoration of our community. A restoration of the unity that we have. People from all across the globe have come here to our country. Some refer to it as a melting pot. I think of it as a tapestry. We can each retain our own colors, our own cultures, our own traditions, but weave them together. What the folks in ICE think is they're doing these things, they're making a show of violence, they're breaking the law with impunity because they think we will be afraid. But what they're learning from the folks in Minneapolis is we are not afraid. Even if we understand the cost, there are many of us who are willing to stand up and bear those costs. Because if you take a tapestry that's well woven and you start to pull it and try to tear it, you just push the threads together tighter. And that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing this tapestry being stretched, being stressed, and it is forcing us to come together tighter than ever. And that is why I am here tonight. And I think that's why you are all here tonight. Because we want to restore that sense of community. And when we see it threatened, we are going to pull tighter together. We're going to unify, and we're going to stand up, and we're going to take action, and we are going to resist. I'd also like to point out that the current administration and ICE say they are doing the things they are doing because they want to make our country safer. They want to make our streets safer. They are not doing that. The shame is that we actually know how to deal with violent criminals who have come into our country. We have a legal system. And if you want to address what you feel is a problem, we do it through the legal system. That means you hire more immigration lawyers. You don't fire immigration lawyers. You give a right of due process to those persons. You don't hide the you don't play three-card Monte where you're trying to hide the card. What they're doing is they're picking people off the streets, and then they move them from place to place so that their legal representation can never catch up to them and their families cannot catch up to them. We need to stand up and say, this is not our country, these are not our values, this is not what we have asked our government to do on our behalf. So while we remember those we have lost, and again, yes, we know very well about Renee Good and Alex Pretti, but there are dozens of others who we know have lost their lives, and more that we don't even know what has happened to them. Let us remember them, but let us make sure that their deaths are not in vain. Let us come together in this sense of community and allow it to draw us closer, allow it to make us stronger so that we can overcome the evil that is challenging our country today. So, thank you very much for coming here tonight and sharing in this vigil. I will turn it over to Alicia to continue.